I guess we just start streaming and hopefully like get the right stream there. Because I don't think I can manage anything anymore at this point. It does say that I'm live now, so God if I know whether this works or not. So yeah, my restreaming thing that I got a subscription for didn't work again. And at this point, I'm just convinced that the service as a whole doesn't work. So I'm going to put them on blast. For anybody who wants to get a restreaming service, do not use this one. This one sucks. One stream. Don't use that. Gonna look into like Google reviews, and I don't oftentimes do any Google reviews, but their interface fucking sucks. Their service just straight up doesn't work, and they're expensive as hell as well. Which is a horrible combination that makes me like actually furious. So yeah, we're gonna give those lovely people a bad review, and if they didn't want that, they shouldn't have made a product that is effectively just a scam. Anyway, let's get into let's get into actually fixing up my game, right? So, as a quick recap of what happened. I fucking wish I knew, first and foremost, why this happened, but I was playing around with changing up some things about the lighting in my game, just experimenting a little bit with options for either turning off lumen and doing everything in a more traditional lighting sense, which means that I have to like set up static lights as well as dynamic lights and like bake some of the lights as well. Which was the first thing that I had in mind to do this with. Or maybe like using lumen but without megalights, or using megalights without lumen. Like the combination of things I was playing around with. And at some point, I opened my door blueprint that I used to go from level to level, which is like quite an important part of the game. You would imagine, right? So BP level door, it's this blueprint over here. I opened this thing up and I started adding these rectangle lights to it. As you can see, it has rectangle lights on all the sides here that will match the color that I give in for it, because that way they can still cast light into the world even if I don't use lumen, because without lumen, emission materials don't actually have... OBS is selected to the wrong stream, I think, somehow. Hold on. Maybe if we do this? Yeah, that's better. Without lumen, emission materials don't actually emit light into the world, which is too bad, because I kind of like the idea that the door frames are surrounded by the color of light of the door frame. Just like draws your attention a little bit more to them. At the same time, I'm going to try to reopen up YouTube chat just in case anybody drops by. Now that I have... Oh, now I can actually... Why can I only dock it at the top? I can only dock my YouTube chat at the top of my workspace. What the hell? Okay, never mind. I have it working, kinda. Not really. We'll see. So I did that. And then at some point, obviously, it's not going to compile now because I set light color and a couple of things here. And then at some point, all the doors just disappeared from my entire game. I still don't know why. They just did. It happens, okay? Sure. So, I figured this is what we have version control for. I made a new commit fairly recently, after I introduced the cell shader, which, by the way, we have a new post-processing cell shader that actually looks halfway decent. As well as like new outline shaders that look much better than the ones that we had before. We'll talk a little bit about that later if we get to it. So I'll just revert to the last commit. And here I made a pretty stupid mistake, and that is I didn't open my version control client to double check what that commit was before reverting changes. You shouldn't have to do that, but you still should, right? Because what ended up happening is the Unity version control, Plastic CSM, that I've been using for about like a year now, I would say. I think maybe that like their plugin didn't update to 5.5 yet or something, but still boots up in 5.5, which is an issue in and of itself. Which means that all the commits that I've made since updating to Unreal Engine 5.5, which has been the last week and a half or so of work, didn't actually get committed into change sets in my version control. Because I always commit them through here, through like the internal Unreal Engine version control submit content, because it's convenient. And in the past that has worked. It's just their shit didn't work properly. So when I reverted, I actually reverted back to a state that was effectively just post 5.5 update. So everything that we did in the last 2 weeks, week and a half, was more or less gone. Which is to say, I'm kind of glad that their plugin is broken, because it didn't the revert also didn't properly work. Yeah, the revert also was messed up. So what ended up happening is it didn't actually revert any changes to any CPP files, to any assets inside Unreal. The only thing that it did is it deleted all of the newly made assets that I made during that time. So all the items, all the abilities, all the like summon blueprints that I made since updating to 5.5, those have been removed. All the changes I made to all the behavior trees, which were pre-existing assets, all the changes that I've made to my C++ code, which of course was a pre-existing file, those didn't get reverted. So I actually saved myself probably like another 10 hours of redoing a lot of that work. Just because I didn't have to redo all that. I only had to like remake the assets that got deleted, which ended up only being about 3 hours of work last night. So we're back up to where we were before the whole implosion of my version control. I will point out that due to this bullshit, I have uninstalled Plastic CSM. I have uninstalled the plugin from Unreal. I have ended my subscription for cloud storage with Unity. Because at this point, like, their service, or at least their plugin, is just a liability. Like, if it can't make a commit into the accompanying software from Unreal Engine, it should give you an error. If it doesn't give me an error, I'm going to assume that nothing bad happened, right? I feel like that's not unreasonable to ask. So I figure simplest is best. So we're back to just using a Git client. I'm now just like using fork again. There's no like identifiable information on here, right? I don't think so. Maybe there's an email address, but that's publicly available as is. Yeah, so I'm just back to using fork. I guess I better not have to revert to any of the states that I had in Unity version control, because I don't have those anymore. I finally got large file support working on GitHub. So I have my cloud storage is just GitHub now, which is like 20 to 30 gigabytes of storage over there, which is a lot. But that's kind of the backstory as to how we got to this point where everything was broken, and the thumbnail is a little bit of a lie because most of the stuff has been fixed already, except for the fact that the thing that caused this all in the first place was the fact that I don't have any doors anymore, and that's the one thing that I didn't fix yet. That's also, like, that didn't get reverted. That was the reason that I did the revert. And that didn't get reverted. It didn't add in back the doors that had been deleted. Because those were changes to an asset. Those were changes to level assets. And changes didn't get reverted. Only new assets got reverted. So I'm still stuck having to replace down every single door effectively in the entire game. Which sucks, because I have a few levels at this point to do that with. So I guess we just gotta get started with level 01. Luckily, I did like half a year ago at this point or something like that. Maybe I can actually just get the BP level door. Yeah, I can. About half a year or so ago or something, I did actually rework the way that these level doors... you know what? If we're doing this anyway... If we are doing this anyway, can we perhaps... I don't think so. Maybe? Static mesh, everything. So I was kind of thinking that maybe what we could do is move this thing up so that its origin point is at the bottom, but maybe not. Yeah, so about half a year ago or so, what I ended up doing is, I think this should be like 1.75, is changing the level that it loads to just this drop-down menu. It used to be a text field, which was horrific, frankly. So what it does now is it just like still populates a text variable or a name variable, technically. But it just does it by taking the name from whatever thing that I pick. So I can just pick 1 opening room. Actually, that would be 02 that I need to combat tutorial. There we go. So that is in there. And then we give this a fairly random color. Just one that kind of works for this area. And then we go over into this area, which is 02 combat tutorial. This is going to be quite tedious, so I figure, you know what, this is the perfect thing to stream, because I can just ramble on about other stuff and we'll eventually get back to a point where everything works. I guess I can just use the M key to like snap it down based on collision, so that's actually kind of fine. It doesn't really matter, it doesn't need to be super exact at the moment. Let's give you like a bluish tint as well. It's going to be 01 starting room. So just to show that everything works, and I've kind of to test it out as well, to be honest with you. If I now start up a new game, I think we also... Oh, I don't think I've shown off this yet, right? We now have proper like action icons as well, which change when I press the left and right like bumpers. So that's not what I wanted to playtest at all. What did you break this time? Literally about everything. I just like did a 10-minute rundown on everything. What it ended up being is version control kind of screwed me. But you see, like these two drawers now link up to each other fairly easily. So we just have to do that about 100 more times, and then we'll be good to go, I think. So let's do that. I don't know if it's 100. It's not that much, to be honest. I probably won't do the red dungeon today as well, because that doesn't even like need to be navigable. How do you want to pronounce that? So it's fine. This leads to 03. At least this is all still like linear, right? So we can pretty much just plop them down and move on. We do need to be mindful of the fact that we need to switch out the levels themselves when we move to a new room. But yeah, so my version control didn't make commits for like the last week since I updated to 5.5. Didn't give me any any errors about it either. So when I reverted, it also bugged out where it ended up only deleting all of the new assets that I've made in the last like week and a half. And not actually reverting any of the other like changes to any of the assets, which is wild in and of itself, because I have no idea how it even would do, like how does that even work. So yeah, I've switched off of that version control client now, because that is not a good time. And it was unintuitive to work with anyway, so I was kind of getting annoyed with it as is, and then it screwed me real bad. And here we are. Did I set the right level on this one? Yes, I did. So yeah, that's in short, that is what happened. Let's not put that down in this level. Let's put it down in the level it actually belongs in, which is 04 hallway. So we're gonna start off by placing down a bunch of doors, and then I think all of the major stuff, like everything that I did on stream over the last like 2 weeks or so, has been fixed. I fixed a lot of stuff last night. I spent about 3 hours fixing up the most major issues. Effectively just redoing what we've done on stream over the last couple of weeks. And then also like remaking the cell shader. Because that of course also got lost. Because that was a new asset. But I haven't actually done like a proper playtest as of yet. Look, now we're in a fairly non-linear place, and I'm also going to set this to unlit so that I can actually see stuff. Yeah, so this goes into 05 platforming. So there is every chance in the world that when we actually start playtesting this thing, I will run into other things that are broken that I haven't realized yet. Which kind of sucks, because I was really like working toward being able to like have a public playtest. I still need to like figure out how that works on Steam, doing a playtest, but we'll figure that out when we actually have a playable build. Because of course, like you kind of need that for people to test it, don't you? What do I do when I have a bunch of portals or entrances? I create an actor which only has one purpose of being a placeholder as I do a level design. Then I'm done creating a proper door portal. Make a construction script and place my doors portals by searching all my placeholder actors by class, then spawning in the door portal at their location. That sounds pretty good, right? I don't know if you necessarily would do that in a construction script. It's probably would make more sense to do that in like a utility widget or whatever. Would be kind of a nice utility widget to have anyway, right? If you have a widget that just like says, hey, pick an actor, and every actor of that class is going to be replaced by pick another class, an actor of this class. So then it can just get all actors of the first class, store their transforms, and create new actors of the second class with those transforms. That's probably the way that I would do that, because then you immediately like have that as a widget that you can like easily reuse with just like 2 variable drop downs. But like making an actor for that with a construction script that does that is like, I mean, that works, right? It's effectively the same thing. Kind of. Okay, this goes into... Oh, hold on now. I'm already in the wrong level. This is going to happen a lot. That's going to happen a lot. Move selected actors to level. At least we know what level we need to move to with this one. It'll be 04. The hallway. Then while we're here anyway... I I also think I have a utility widget that just like snaps actors to the closest wall. Probably should use that for this. Oh no, I actually never made that into a utility widget. That's just a function I have on one actor, because I'm insane like that. This leads to door for world 7, or level 7 rather, where we will set our focus to now. Door 7. Level door. We'll set up the colors and stuff later. I don't really care about the color things now. Especially not in this opening dungeon. Because the colors don't actually mean anything here. I'll probably just make the colors white for all these, to be honest with you. In the end. So I don't even know why the color is not just white by default. Yeah, probably should just make the color white by default. That would make sense. Hold on. Let's just make the color white by default. Yeah, that's a bit better. I like the construction script since I customize it and reuse it. Yeah, but that's like the thing with a utility widget, is you just like make an editor panel that like runs functionality. Since sometimes I don't want rotation or scale. I mean, yeah, I guess you, yeah. I guess if you want to do it on an individual basis, that makes sense. But if you're going to do it on an individual basis anyway, you might as well replace them by hand. Like at that point, it doesn't really matter what you do, because it's going to be a pain to deal with anyway. Just like this. This also is a massive pain to deal with. It's not so bad here, but when we get to like the purple dungeon, like upstairs in a moment, that's going to be... Man, that's going to be something. There's quite a lot of doors in that thing. I guess I'm just glad that this happened now and not like a year from now when I had like 6 times the amount of doors. Because that would suck. Let's set to platforming level, and then I guess we just kind of guesstimate where the doors have to go. It doesn't really matter where we put them, like physically. And that leads to level 7. And I think that will connect up the entirety of the tutorial area again, which is like all placeholder anyway, but it needs to be there for people to play test. And maybe at some point I should actually like put tutorialization in there, but man, that's a whole other question for another day. Because I need to be fairly confident that like my game mechanics are finalized before I start making tutorials. This is because otherwise I'm just wasting my time. Quite comfortable if you plan ahead. I had a level with a bunch of stuff that I had to spawn. Some with transform placeholder. Some just randomly around an object. So I might actor with a bunch of, yeah. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. I probably wouldn't do it that way, but that's the wonder about game development, is you can do it in whatever way you feel. Especially like development tools themselves. You can do them however you prefer, and like if it works, it works. When you start doing things like at runtime, you maybe have to worry a little bit more about like if it actually has like a big performance impact. But like, if it's just a tool that you yourself use, like who cares how you do it, as long as it gets done, right? That's the most important thing at the end of the day. That's not the level that I need to place this in. I just realized that I forgot a door in here. It's quite an important door because it's the door that leads to the boss fight. Why don't you like snap down? I'll just be difficult like that, that's fine. That's cool for now. Can I, like, oh, what the hell did I just do? No, seriously, what the hell did I just do? Oh, I set the thing to wireframe. What the, and to front perspective? What the fuck? I just wanted to, like, unhide the things that I just hid. This one and that one. There we go. And then we have one more door to place in 08. Then the wonderful thing is going into the actual, let's just place it down here somewhere. Going into the actual, like, main part of the game is done through cutscene, teleport, not even through, like, a level loading thing. So that will take care of itself. Yeah, okay, but the thing that I mean with, like, the pre-made functions is that you can do that in a utility widget as well. And then it doesn't have to be an actor. But, like, if you're more comfortable doing it inside a construction script for an actor, maybe set this up as well before I forget. Instead of doing a utility widget, like, that's fine. Like, utility widgets can be a bit of a pain to, like, work with. You know what? I've just decided that the main menu widgets, I am fine with it just showing a mouse cursor, even if we don't use it, because at this point I am fucking done. Let's see if this... Why do I have caps lock on? Show mouse cursor. Let's just see. I don't think it gets set to falls anywhere at any point. Yeah, that's a bit better. Alright, let's see if all the doors work, shall we? This first one we already tested, so that's good. Do I have my controller? I do have my controller hooked up. Cool, let's do it with controller. So yeah. We also have our input mappings changed up a little bit. The lock-on is now on left bumper and triangle. The, or like face up, I guess, if you're using anything that's not a placing controller. Left bumper and the left face button is teleporting to your currently targeted enemy. Left bumper and attack is doing your weapon special attack. And left bumper doesn't change to jump. It might... That looks really cool with the cell shading, holy hell. I might change that to like mid-air, like recovery, now that I think about it, because I still don't have a button for that. And then we still have just dash, attack, jump, and examine. That doesn't do anything yet because I don't have an interaction system in this game yet, but that'll just trigger the interaction function on the closest actor. And then the right bumper just lets you use your items. So in this case, those are the magic spells I have equipped, and I don't have the MP to use any more of them. Doesn't matter, that's not what we're doing here anyway. So far, this all seems to work. Let's heal up at the save point. When you're standing like in a light, the cell shading really like comes through very well. When you're in a like a little bit more of a dark area, it's a little more subtle and a little bit more noisy as well. But specifically like when you're standing directly under a light, it looks really quite cool. So this one works as well. Let's just make a quick little circle around. Okay, that one has a bit of a problem, obviously. Let's see, I think, yeah, this one, right? So did I just not put in 0.5 platforming? I guess this one just didn't have... Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. This should be 0.4 hallway. I also still had a save file, I just realized. Another useful thing I was creating is an actor that checks the ground spawns. Let me try that again because my brain's not braining. Another useful thing I used was a certain actor that checks where the ground is and spawns an actor at a certain scale snap to a ground in editor. I would have the place where I want the actor object to go. That's actually a pretty good one. Yeah. Because you could just like place it anywhere you want, and then it's like spawns in like an actor of class, like can be like a variable, I suppose. That's actually pretty clever. Nice. Okay. Let's try again. This time I don't fall into the void, which is helpful. I think this one is linked up without problem. Yeah, it is. I don't have any of the keys, so this is going to be a bit of a pain. I guess I can just like manipulate the data assets if I really wanted. This looks really not as good anymore with the cell shading. It looks really kind of bad, actually. Let's just do the puzzle, though. But it's fine. We'll just pick up the key. But yeah, that doesn't look... I mean, when it's all one color, it looks a little bit better. Still not great. But I think, yeah, we have everything working for this first dungeon, effectively. Aside from the fact that I think the boss fight still can't take damage. That's not an issue with me messing up the entire project, or rather the version control messing up the entire project. That is just an issue with me like not implementing its damage functionality properly yet, I think. But we'll figure that out in a moment, I guess. Because right now we have 2 of the 3 keys. The third one is going to be easy to get because I can just spam thunderbolts. Yeah, just like an actor that just like line traces down is quite a nice thing. Quite simple, but it's like really quite useful. Yeah, I know that the Thunder spell is too overpowered. It needs to cost more mana. All my magic needs to cost more mana, but it's a pain to test when things are like expensive to cast. So that's why everything is just like 5 mana at the moment. We'll balance it out at some point in the future, I'm sure. For now, though, it is hella satisfying to just like do this by more experience. Thanks. I also need to figure out how the hell I like improve that sword trail, because right now it just gets stuck in the on position constantly, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, I just don't know how to fix it. Anyway, let's... That's not what I wanted to do at all. Apparently that's mapped to the start button on controllers. That's kind of weird, but okay. Didn't see that coming. Alright, let's try the boss. I think he's going to be invincible. But let's see how it looks with cell shading. I haven't seen this cutscene with cell shading yet. It looks surprisingly pretty good for a metal material. Like, metal materials with cell shading is, like, remarkably a pain in the ass, usually, right? No, I don't think it particularly like needs a casting. So it just doesn't do anything. Well, that's a thing that we'll look into. I don't think it particularly needs like a wind up. I think it just needs a cooldown, and it needs a higher mana cost, and to deal a little bit less damage out of the gate as well. Okay, let's see. I don't care about any of this for the time being. What I do care about is why did you not do anything? You have a behavior tree, I said, right? Yes, you do. I guess we just check that out. Does that not run at all? Because that would be kind of weird. I guess it might not be triggering something in the level blueprint to make this thing run, actually. Because I do pause its logic immediately when the cutscene starts. Because otherwise it does weird stuff. Yeah, so it's inactive. It's simulating. Oh, it's trying to find a target, but that doesn't... Oh, yeah, no, okay, so that's fair. Yeah, this thing doesn't need to, like, do any intelligent, like, finding of targets. This thing just legitimately needs to, on begin play, like, get controller, cast to AI controller, get blackboard, set value as objects, and then the value that we'll be setting will be the target. So make a literal name, targets, and this will be get player character. We can just give that thing. As a matter of fact, we actually do need to like hook this up as well. We may also just make a find initial target function on the controller itself, because all of the things that like all the enemies when they initially like get started take like half a second to find their target, because they refresh their targets on half a second intervals, like 0.4 to 0.6 seconds, which is a massive pain, obviously, because that makes them not very responsive when they initially spawn in. Same thing goes for the allied summons. So we'll probably do that as well. Let's actually just do that now. What's the easiest way to do this? I think we have AI controller. So let's get rid of all this. AI controller basic land, which is a child of, okay, it's a child of this. So do we do that in the C++ or in the blueprint? I guess we might as well do it in C++. But that will mean I have to recompile. I don't want to recompile because that is annoying. So yeah, here on begin play, what we just do is get... Oh, this is the AI controller, actually, so just get blackboard. Get blackboard, set value as objects, and then what do? We get another behavior tree, and we just figure out what we do and all that. So BT basic daemon. And there we have the update blackboard target. So we can just kind of like move this, right? So if we just take all this and put this onto the controller instead, can run initially, and then it can rerun through that as well. So we don't even like need the control pawn, I think. So that's a really good argument as to why to do it in Blueprint, because then we don't need to do anything. Updates target black. That's not. Let's say target blackboard key. So we just copy all this over. And then this will be possible targets. Doesn't need to be cleared out because that is now a... Oh, that's actually amazing. Because those can be actually local variables now, so they don't need to like start by being cleared out. That makes this all a little bit more neat. And this, I guess, is just get pawn. We are on a AI controller, so that should have a get possessed. What do you mean, no? Huh? Am I missing something? This is a AI controller, right? Yeah. Doesn't that have a get pawn? I'm certain that it does. Is it called something different? I'm just going to ChatGPT this because otherwise I don't know. This is going to take forever. Unreal Engine, I need to get the pawn that an AI controller is possessing. What is that node called? Oh, get controlled pawn. Get controlled pawn. You know, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Let's see. That doesn't hook up to that. Oh, that does hook up to that because this just expects a pawn. So I think this all just works now. We don't need this anymore. Get owner. No, that would be the other way around, right? Because the pawns don't own the... Well, actually, get owner for an actor wouldn't get you the controller either. But like the actor doesn't own the controller, or the other way around. Like they don't have an ownership relationship in that way, I don't think. If anything, the controller would probably own the pawn, but I don't think it does either. Oh yes, a blackboard key. So that could then just be the... Okay, so that needs to be changed. To get blackboard and that whole dealio. Set key as object. Set value as object. Of course. That hooks up to there. That doesn't hook up to anything because I don't care about that anymore. We make a little name, targets, and we set it to that object. And we copy that over to over here, where we, I guess, just set the value to null. Sure. Any more compiling errors in here? Seems like there is. Wait, what? Oh yeah, no, but it's just we do this on begin play now. So let's test whether or not this works in the first place. Basic land. Cast to basic land. Update. That stuff. So we don't really need to control pawn anymore at all. That makes this a lot more simple. Let's see if it crashes the game. Because it fucking might. Hello everybody. Joining in. Moment of truth. Do we crash the moment these things start? No. Do they see me as a potential target? This one does. They all seem to. So that seems pretty good too. Okay. Hold on. Where does it go wrong? I guess the controlled pawn... What? I guess we should check whether or not this is valid to begin with. Right? There's no reason to run this if we don't have... wait, what? Where does that lead? Okay, there. If a controller isn't possessing a pawn, there's no reason to run this. Ooh. But that might be an issue in some cases. So we might need to run this on activate, not on begin play. Yeah, let's think about that in a moment. I think this might be a little bit more annoying to deal with than I thought. How's everybody doing? The people are starting to like join in. Well, he does actually see me as his target fairly quickly. I suppose what I really should do is like pick up that thing over there and see whether or not the things that I spawn also instantly. Also, they now have like icons. They have a green border because they get exported as like green screened, but do I have two of these things like... Oh, something is fucked there. Doesn't really matter right now. Yeah, so this thing doesn't immediately have a target. So that leads me to believe that it doesn't in fact actually work properly. Unless... do the summons have the same AI controller by default? I don't think they do, so that might be the issue. I don't think I gave them that AI controller, did I? Yeah, so this should be AI controller basic land instead. That's the issue, probably. Let's just test it out with the demon first before I start like spreading it all over the place. Well, we'll need to do that anyway, I think, but that's not what I'm meant to do at all. Yeah, so something about this is kind of fucky. We'll worry about that later. But yeah, so now he has immediately got a target when he spawns in, right? He kind of loses the plot a moment later, to be fair. So he might not have gotten a target immediately. He might have just like accidentally walked in the right direction. Yeah, so this doesn't work at all, does it? Yeah, we'll worry about that later, I guess. I guess what actually happens is... the question is, does this guy get like anything at all as far as like his target now? Well, this dude can just hard set it to get player characters, because this dude only ever has to face the player character. There's not going to be like a summoned version of him. So that makes it a little bit easier. Still, don't really... Target. None. Yeah, so doesn't do fucking shit. So... Okay. It might be because he's not using AI basic land. Hold on. No, he is. His range might just not be large enough. I have a better idea actually. We're gonna do it we're gonna do it like this. What we're gonna do is this is gonna be a input parameter, and if that is valid, we will allow this function to directly set it, and if not valid, it does all that other logic, right? So what that allows us to do is like explicitly call that at any given point and do stuff with it. In theory. So let's open up one of these cinematics. I don't know which one it is. This is the defeated one. I think this is... Why is the outline shader so fucking jacked on this floor? I think it's a range thing. It might be. But I think the range it is looking in... Well, let's just test that out, because I think it probably is. But the range it's looking in is 50,000. Yeah, it's definitely not a range thing. It's looking within a 50,000 unit range, which is way too much anyway. Let's bring that down to 5,000. Oh, I know what the issue is, I think. This guy doesn't have the enemy tag. Yeah. It only... It checks the tags of the enemies that it finds, or the actors that it finds, and checks whether or not it has a matching enemy tag with it, so that non-enemies only target enemies, and enemies only target non-enemies. So that is likely the issue. Let me close down the sequencer, because if I don't have to use this, that would be preferable. It'll still be nice to... Load the wrong save file. It'll still be nice to have a option with that function to just give it an object directly at times, I'm sure. So we're going to still keep that. But you know, it might actually be better to make that a blueprint library function instead of making that something specifically on that controller. Yeah, so it's still not setting it. But I'm quite sure that that is just to do with the fact that it runs it on like initial spawn. Probably. Yeah, let's move this to a blueprint functional library, because I think that makes a lot more sense. For which we need to make one, so it's like presumably in blueprint, right? Macro library, functional library. There we go. AI utils. I don't know, something like that. Set blackboard target key. So this needs a key value as well as needing a AI controller. And now I just need to hook this up into like about 1 billion different things. Is this not a... It's just an actor object reference. Let's make that an AI controller object reference. I said an AI controller object reference. Please do as I say. Thank you very much. Needs to compile, and now, why does this not? It's just a normal controller. This is what? It's still an actor object. What the fuck? There we go. Now it works. So yeah, we need to hook this up in a couple of places for like world context and stuff. Not that many places actually, and to get the blackboard. But now we'll be able to like access this as a function anywhere. Which will make my life a lot easier. So I think that's all the places I actually needed to hook that. Oh no, hold on. This key value definitely needs to go in there. Yeah. That's all of them. An interface would be better? No, I don't think so necessarily. That can be used for friendly or enemy AI. This can too. And the friendly and enemy AI always like are the same behavior tree anyway. So like the behavior trees, I'm already designing them to be agnostic to what alliance they actually have. Like the tasks in here and the targeting in here already works for both. And this is even like more generalized than an interface. Because this can literally be called from anywhere at any point now. Well, an interface can too, but it will like always call the same code. And like this code already takes into account the different alliances. And it's just one function that does that. So I guess that's quite neat. So I guess we don't need this anymore. Let's see. So we don't need this anymore either. What do we call it? Update BB target key. You see, so we can now just update BB. Need to compile this first. That makes sense. Oh, it is. Oh no. Yeah, local variable. That actually makes sense. That's my bad. There we go. So I need to compile that first, of course. And then update BB. What did I call it again? Set targets. That's it. Set BB target key. So we give in the controller. And then in this case, we don't give in a key value because the key value we want to like dynamically calculate within the behavior tree. But then on test night, on begin play, we can set BB target key. We can get controller. Probably needs to. Can we just get AI controller? Much better. Controlled actor will be self. And the key we can just now directly set to get player character. So now we'll just hard set it to the player character in this case for the test night. Just thinking that would make it easier for you in the long run, since you can do most of the AI related stuff in the interface instead of jumping around to different BPs. Still just an idea I have. But that's the thing. I don't need to jump around into different blueprints, like, at all. Like for this one, I do, because I want to like explicitly set it to specifically only the player just on begin play, because that's easier for me now. But everything else, like every other blueprint, like this basic demon blueprint that we have here, that's not a blueprint, behavior tree. Like this behavior tree already like works for both allied and opposing versions of the character. So like I don't need to jump around doing a bunch of stuff. Like everything I have set up already lends itself to not having to do like 2 behavior trees for every single version, like a allied and a enemy version. They all just run the same behavior, and they have a concept of, hey, who's my enemy and who's not. It's just for bosses specifically, you do a little bit more like manual like scripting. And hopefully that actually ended up working. It seems like it does, but it also seems like it is simulating the AI now. Which is weird. Because it shouldn't be. I mean, it's fine, I guess. Like, aside from that part where it just starts moving very suddenly, it also still can't take damage because we haven't implemented that yet. Bind on level load completed. What the fuck? Start boss fight. Why does this logic suddenly seem broken? Huh? I don't even know what this used to be. So that is like slightly problematic, I would say. But I guess we just skip that for now. Because we don't know, like, we don't even know what that was. You see, we could also do it in here. Like setting its target. Like, specifically. I don't know that that's necessarily what we want to be doing. This enemy multiplier system isn't even like doing anything yet. I just realized I made that like months ago. I really should get to that. Anyway. I have a suggestion for 2 new enemy types. Ooze slime enemy that multiplies itself. That is 1000% one of the plans. Yeah. Like the classic RPG slime. Love that type of enemy. It's also infuriating, but it's also really satisfying when you get down to like having like 8 or 16 miniature slimes that you can just like swipe away in one hit. That's super satisfying and a lot of fun. But if you go with magic, it will not multiply. That is also interesting. That's also actually quite interesting. That's a nice idea. So if you want to just like go through it, you just like cast a magic spell at it and it fucking disintegrates. So that speeds up your progress, but you get less experience out of it. Maybe. An interesting idea. Yeah, I like that. I also like the idea of a slime because it'll be very easy to model and animate. Yeah, so I think Oh, that's the thing. On level shown. Oh. I think I understand. Does this have like a self reference? It's just an object. So if event boss defeated has not yet happened, I think what we do, I think the thing that we didn't have before is after this we get brain, get AI controller, get brain components, and we stop logic for a moment. Well, we'll only do that if the cutscene plays, actually, I think. Right here, cutscene happened. Bind unfinished. We like stop logic, and then unfinished we restart logic. I think that's the way I had it set up before. I don't know why it broke. But this is why we're doing playtesting, because like I don't know where things might be broken. I keep loading the wrong fucking save file. Second one is an enemy that you cast magic nearby and absorbs your cast. Can only do it with a certain cooldown, but it gets powered up and deals more damage and it's faster. That's also a nice idea. Also, this dude's music doesn't play anymore. Wonder what that is. Because there's supposed to be boss music here. Okay, so that's almost it. That's almost... Oh, I think I know the issue. The issue is that in the sequencer itself, he also restarts his logic. Oh, that's probably where... Yeah, no, that fully makes sense. We have like these events over here, right? Where we disable input and re-enable input, but we also have the restart and stop logic. So let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of this as well. I think none of these actually matter anymore because we're doing that in different places. And they might be interfering with each other now. Maybe you have it muted. No, I hear the different music, I think. No, it just doesn't play the music anymore. Might have deleted the music file for some reason. Again, there's a bunch of stuff that's just like all kind of whack at the moment. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't. Well, everything works except for the fact that I'm being placed in a weird spot. Oh. Yeah, no, this definitely should still run. Which actually, why do I do it that way anyway? Why don't I just like put the player here from moment zero? There might have been a reason for that at some point. Like re-entering this room, I suppose. But you... No, because you literally cannot re-enter the room. After you beat the boss fight, you immediately get teleported up to the rest of the game. So I keep doing the wrong thing. Like the moment you enter this room, you either die and oh... No. you either die and have to re-enter the room anyway, at which point you don't want to be stuck in the invisible wall, or you win and you get that transported out. There's no place or reason for you to be in this room and not be fighting the boss fight. So yeah, that I'm sorry, what? You're supposed to spawn in at the arrow. Why aren't you at the arrow? Does this like weirdly have an animation track for the player or something? No, it does not. I also don't know why the blocking volume has events. What the fuck? Yeah, collision is enabled. Fucking duh. Does this thing not have collision enabled usually? Let's fix that. I do wonder why it doesn't just put me down at the arrow, because it's supposed to. I really don't want to have to look at this fucking scene every time I go in, but it's part of the testing, man. It's part of the testing. And I don't even care about the music right now. We'll figure that out at some point in the future, I'm sure. Please don't be in the floor. Why are you in the floor? Set visibility on the player character. I don't even think that we need to do that, to be honest with you. I think we can just like disable and re-enable input. Like, I don't even know why that would matter at all. Matter of fact, let's just do this. Yeah, I don't know why that would matter like in the slightest. I don't think we need any of this. Like the only things that I care about is re-enable and disabling the input, which actually I think we should just make a... Can we do that in Blueprint, I wonder? Because there's a couple of things that I actually want to be able to do on level sequence. So can I make like a child blueprint of level sequence? We might need to do this in C++, at which point I might not do it today, but in the future, what we might want to do is make a child of a level sequence that just when it starts, disables player inputs and gets rid of all the HUD elements. And when it ends, it re-enables both of those things as well. Just automatically. So that I don't have to do that within events for every single one, because that's going to suck. So let's see if we can do a sequence. That's a level sequence actor, though, which might be what we need. I think that might be what we need. I think that's what we need, actually. Let's call this custom level sequence actor. Because we can just like put this in here and effectively functions the exact same. But what we can do instead is I don't even think we need to like bind to any like fancy stuff, right? Because it'll probably just be a event. Oh, we need to get sequence player. So get sequence player. Well, actually, yeah. So here we have on play for the sequence player. Okay, hold on. And we have on finished. So we get player character, disable inputs, enable inputs, cast to third person character for both of these as well. Get HUD, remove from parent, get HUD, add to viewport. We might change this to like changing its visibility instead at some point. But at least it will be in one central location with this thing, right? I think that's going to be get player controller. I think this is going to make my life a lot easier. Having this as like a custom actor that like just sets up this stuff. So yeah, instead of doing this, we do it in this one. And we get rid of this one. And everywhere that it does like stuff. For the first thingamajig. There we go. I found it. Took a moment, but this hooks up to there. Do we have any? I think that's the only thing. No, because we also need to play it. Hold on, where do we play it? Oh, we do play it there. Okay, so I think this should automatically disable my inputs now and also get rid of my HUD, which is the most important thing. It does not. Never mind. Why doesn't it? I don't know. I am also still inside of this. I don't get what's going on, man. Like, aside from everything else, this should put me at the arrow's location, I am fairly certain. That's what the arrow is supposed to do. So something here is fucking with that, I think. Let's call this night boss opening. Get rid of these. We're just going to get rid of everything. I'm just going to get rid of that entire like events track because I don't think we need it anymore. We don't need it for blocking volume either. And then I'm going to add in, just for shits and giggles, some print strings, actually. Anybody who hasn't seen today's video, sponsor of that video, fantastic plugin. Cinematic. And the string will be player started. And this will be player ended. Wrong safel again, because why not? Does it trigger those things the way I think it... Me. Does it trigger those things the way I think that it should? Because it might not trigger those at all. It's not triggering them at all. So I don't think those events work the way I thought they would, maybe. That's not the button I wanted to press. So then, the question quickly becomes, when do those actually fire? Because all these events are just normal actor events. So it's definitely not these. On camera cut. Yeah, I mean this should just do those things, you would assume. Do we need to we can't even add a call to parent function, so that's definitely not the issue. Let's do this the other way that we know of, and that is on begin play, we bind to on play. Let's just call this a custom event that does that. And for now, I'm not even going to hook up the other one as well, just to check if this makes any difference. I don't think it should. What do you mean you broke your game? Well, my version control broke a lot of things. Mostly like new assets that have been added, and some stuff also just like doesn't have proper references anymore and stuff for some reason. So we're going through step by step to try to fix what I can find. Also, that's still an issue. I don't know what's up with this level, man. I mean, the idea that I had here definitely doesn't work very well. Just to test if that runs at all. Like, does it run anything at all on that actor? This should print hello. It does. Okay. So, I mean, it's not really the the point right now to get this to work, because it's just a random idea that I had a moment ago. But I think that this should work. Maybe I'm old school, but I save every month on an external hard drive. I mean, I also make regular like external backups to like a cloud server. But even if you lose a month of work, that's still like you mess everything up. Like I don't need to start the entire game from scratch, obviously. But I lost about like a week and a half to 2 weeks worth of progress, which is quite a lot. As far as boss IDs, I pretty much have all of the bosses already figured out what they're going to be and how they're going to work, more or less. So I don't know if there's going to be like a lot of room for stuff there. I'm going to Google this real quick, or ChatGPT it actually. Different question. I have a child class of the level sequence actor. I want to run some code when it plays the level sequence, and then some other code when it finishes. I figured the on play and on finished events on the sequence player would allow me to do those things, but it's not working. Get sequence player node from the sequence, bind on play and on finish. That's what I'm doing. That doesn't work. Unless I am being like a super idiot and trying to run this on a wrong. No, I'm not, I don't think. Yeah, this is the opening. What is this scene? I still don't know what hide HUD does, to be fair with you. I mean, it has a hide player and hide like disable input, all that kind of stuff built in, but it doesn't quite do everything that I want it to do. Because it only is movement and look input. But like, if I have a different input for like attacking, I can still do that during a cutscene, which is why. And hide HUD, you would assume just hides all the widgets, but it doesn't. So I don't know what that is all about. Yeah, I don't know, man. It doesn't really do. Maybe it requires being autoplayed or some weird shit. Everything that I can think of would be a really weird reason. But it does run begin play. It just doesn't do this. Anybody in chat have any experience with this? Yeah, NAS drives are very expensive, and frankly, if you are like the only person working from it, highly not worth it. Like literally just using an external hard drive for archiving purposes is just the same. Or just the way I have it. I have like a 12 terabyte hard drive in my system itself that I use for archiving. Why would I need that to be a separate device? Unless you just don't have enough room anymore for more hard drives in your system, at which point, yes, then it becomes relevant. Yeah, you can ask something about tick and timers. I'm just trying to figure out what's going wrong here. But go ahead. Ask me anything you want. I'm just gonna like double check that it doesn't like accidentally log anything without me realizing. No, it doesn't actually, because cinematics. I guess it actually never logged anything, so I can't filter on it yet because it doesn't exist yet. That makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. Let's Google this. Unreal level sequence actor on play not working. On play event not working. Let's. I would assume nobody's run into this that I can find. That's kind of weird. So when does this run? When sequence player is played. Oh, does that require me to... Why did that go back there? Does that require me to maybe... No, because even with autoplay it doesn't do this. I was thinking maybe what I'm doing wrong is I am like getting sequence player and playing that. Can I just like play... No, because that gets the sequence player. So start, play. I guess I just have this as a custom level sequence actor. So what I can do, it's a little annoying for now, but what I can do, I suppose, is you would assume that I can make the parent call to this function as well. I feel like that might be what's going wrong here, but apparently not. Can't add parent call. So maybe I need to do this in C++ for some weird-ass reason. That's the only thing that I can think of right now. That could be the issue. But a workaround would be play sequence. And what we do is we just play sequence like this. I can do all this stuff. But then it doesn't end automatically, does it? So that doesn't actually work either. Well, just for the sake of argument, right? Let's just try this. Just to make sure that I still have my sanity. Okay, I don't. What the fuck? Why doesn't it remove the HUD? It should. Right, it did the player started. I'm getting hung up on something that I hate the fact that I have to save files. I'm getting hung up on something that really, in the end, doesn't actually matter. So let's ignore that for now. We're just gonna like remove all this. We'll keep this stuff around just because. If we ever come back to this, that's fine. For now, this doesn't matter. What does matter is why do I not get put in the right place? And why? Where's my OBS? There's my OBS. Hello. So, some people say you can use tick events for ongoing calculations instead of making timers and slowing them down, but how many times do you need ongoing things checked? Can you use interfaces start and end the sequence? That's not the point. As far as tick goes, it kind of depends on how heavy the operation you're doing is, as to how much that matters to begin with. If you're just like checking a variable or like setting a variable based on some like very easy math, like don't worry about it too much. It's kind of up to you as like the programmer to decide like, okay, does this need to be at every frame the most up-to-date information, or is it fine if this just updates like 10 times a second? Or like 20 times a second, or 30 times a second. Like at some point you get down to timers that are so fast that they are effectively still checking every single frame, in which case, like, you don't use the timer, just use tick. But like when things have to do with like positional data, like specifically setting positions, there's not a lot of reasons to do things directly in tick. It is fine to do if you need to, but for the most part, there's not a lot of reason to. Like, I have a couple of things that I do like specifically in tick in some of these things. Like, let's see if I have in my surely my player character I have something in event tick. Maybe. Oh yeah, actually I do. On the C++ level, not here, I don't think. This is a mess, man. Oh, yeah, this is a bit of a weird situation. I'm causing a movement update every tick for like collision reasons. That's not a really good example. But if I, for instance, check in my C++ class here for my character, right? Let's just try to find that real quick. Source player, there we go. I have a tick event here somewhere, yeah. So here I do the ledge grab thing, and I update all my nearby enemies, and I do some other stuff related to that, all inside tick. The update nearby enemies probably could be on a timer, to be fair. Like, updating that every, like, 10th of a second, 20th of a second, something like that, probably would be fine. It's just more responsive, because right now, it updates every frame. So it's going to feel like more responsive. When another enemy gets closer to me, it's going to instantly focus over to that now closer enemy. And there's some like more logic behind it than just like checking world distance. But that's beside the point right now. My ledge grabbing system, right? You want the ledge grab to like check every frame. And I have some built-in protection for that. First and foremost, we... actually, no, I don't. What I should have in here, unless, hold on. Yeah, so what I have in here, I don't even run the ledge grab check unless my character movement's Z velocity is less than 0. And I'm not already hanging. So only when I'm moving down and I'm not already hanging onto something, which actually is a double check, because if I'm hanging onto something, I'm not moving down. So I could probably get rid of this one. Do I do this check? And this check just does some line tracers to like check if there's any like ledges nearby that you can grab onto, and then like place you onto those things, and then flips the hanging ball to true. These are ones who be very, very responsive. So I do it every frame. Yeah, if I have health, I use interface for damage check, and if I'm dead, then I have an outgoing gameplay effect. How do I cheaply check my health? You just, whenever you apply a damage, that is when you check health. Like, you don't need to check health every frame. That's one of those things where it's easiest to just check health every frame on every character in your game. But that's one of those things where, like, your health, you only need to check it when it changes, right? Because between one frame and a different frame, your health isn't necessarily going to change. And if you check that on, like, a couple hundred instances every frame, that might cost you, like, a couple of frames in the grand scheme of things per second, which is not that big a deal. But it is emblematic of a, like, usually greater like pattern of unoptimized code, stuffing things like that into to running like every frame. Yeah, but poison gameplay effect cannot check anything, so take damage. If you're using the gameplay ability system, which I don't know if you are, but if you're using the gameplay ability system, your attributes have a functionality where you can where you can like run code pre or post attribute change. So what you do there is I have this in here somewhere. So we have the base, probably called base attribute. Yeah. So here in base attribute set, for me, I do clamping here. right? So a pre-base attribute set, you get in a reference to the attribute and a reference to that new value. Then I check whether or not we're talking about the health attribute, and if so, I just clamp it between 0 and max health. You can also do a post attribute changed function here, which is a function that it comes with automatically, and just check whether or not it's less than 0. And if so, you like run an interface to kill whatever like actor owns this thing. So that way, it only runs that code every time an attribute actually gets changed. Or alternatively, what you could do is if you have, like, you probably should be using a like damage interface to begin with. Let's see, like Unreal itself has this event any damage, which is actually the reason that I just realized that's the reason that my damaging doesn't work, because I'm not using that. I use this other system that I made myself. So you just do it in here, right? You first apply all your effects for applying damage, but for things with tick damage, you're right, that doesn't work. Because those get applied once and then like apply themselves over and over and over again. Which of course means, oh my god. Which of course means that like it doesn't run that interface every single time. So for like poison damage or like burn damage or whatever, that doesn't work. You do have a good point there. I need to like rework some of this stuff, because I don't think that this is going to work either. But yeah, then using the post attribute change is probably the way to go. We're going to just like kind of ignore this for now, as long as it works. Zero 08 boss, what's your fucking problem now? Oh yeah, no, that actually makes sense. Honestly, I might just like redo this entire level blueprint, because it's kind of a mess. It's the wrong save file. I'm just gonna like remove that save file at some point, man. It's gonna be easy enough to walk back to anyway. Oh, hold on. It might actually have... I just realized it might have actually been removing a HUD, but I think my HUD is getting added twice. Maybe. I think I'm fucking something up where I add my HUD twice, because you can see like I have overlapping text with like fireball and dash. And I still get stuck in here. I don't know why that is. With enemies, with a sphere collision, to avoid tick. That kind of depends on what you mean and what you're doing with your enemies. Like, are your enemies doing a sphere overlap every single tick? Because that is effectively what a sphere component itself does as well, I believe. So like you're not actually saving that much. That said, if you do that on a timer instead of on tick, you are probably saving some. But now you don't have the upsides of having a component. Also, you don't have the downsides of having a component, which is nice. Like in a lot of cases, if you think, hey, I want to do something very regularly, doing a fast timer is better than using tick, but using tick does make sense in certain things that need to be like frame specific, like frame accurate, very responsive. But aside from that, you probably shouldn't use tick too much. So... like, it's legitimately a good exercise to make a small game. Just like something really small. Effectively, like, not much more than just like a mini game. But making something with the forward intention, I'm straight up not going to use event tick in this entire thing. Because it shows you all the other ways that you are actually supposed to be doing stuff. And some stuff you might run into oh yeah, no, I actually do straight up need tick for this to be functional the way I want it to be. But in about 90% of cases, when you initially think, hey, I'm just going to shove this into tick, there's probably a better alternative. I was going to do a thing. I forgot what that thing was. Fuck. Oh yeah, the game instance. Set player save point, no. Initialize level stats, no. It's when I load a level, do this once. Disable inputs, loading screen, add to viewport. On level shown, load inventories by object, reset level door, set player location, start level. Okay. Player set actor rotation. I'm not setting the location anywhere, am I? I'm getting the rotation. Oh, hold on. Did set. What the fuck? Next location. Does this return a bool? It returns a bool. What does this okay, sure, that returns a bool. So I guess that this isn't running for some reason. But no, it must be. Why the fuck? Oh, I know what I did. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I know what I did. I've had this issue before. I moved the arrow. I think. But the arrow is part of player start position. I need to move the entire parent object. I don't know why I didn't just do it at the arrow's position. There must have been a reason that I did that this way. For love of me, can't remember why. It's probably a very bad reason. What did you do? I used Unity version control, and Unity version control didn't update to Unreal 5.5. So all the commits that I made over the last week to 2 weeks got fucked, effectively. Yeah, now it sets me to the right position. That's good. Yeah, but there's some other issues there. And then I reverted something yesterday because all of my doors in my entire game disappeared. And I reverted back to my last commit. And luckily, the Unity version control plugin was bugged because it's not up to date for 5.5 yet, but it still boots in 5.5 for some reason. So it didn't properly revert all the way back. It just deleted all the assets that I've made since the last commit that it did register. So a lot of stuff broke. And luckily it didn't break as much as I thought it did. But I am now properly back on just using fork. Because I am not dealing with a plugin that is such a liability. I don't want to deal with that. That's not a fun time at all. So let's set distance to player default value to 25 million, 250 million, a very high number. So that's what happened to my game. I might have exaggerated a little tiny bit in the thumbnail, saying that everything broke. But enough broke to the point where it made me really upset. Yeah. In all honesty, though, you shouldn't revert without first checking whether or not like your last commit worked and what your last commit was to begin with. So I should have checked that before reverting. Like that is partly on me, but only partly. Because I entirely like understand and respect that the plugin doesn't work, right? If the plugin doesn't work on the new Unreal version because Unreal changed some like internal stuff or whatever, and it just doesn't like doesn't properly sync up to like the application on my PC because it's expecting a different Unreal version, I understand all that. But at that point, you give me an error message, like a very obvious in-your-face pop-up window error message, and it didn't do that either. So I didn't know that there was something wrong for the last 2 weeks. And I'm not okay with any of that. So this is just like, there's no plugin anymore. I'm just using Unreal's like built-in revision control that just hooks into Fork. Just like at that point, if something goes wrong, it's like Unreal's fault. Okay, so we fixed that one issue. Now the other issue that we had was, I guess, for now we'll just go back to, oh, I already deleted the entire thing there. Oh, fuck. Okay, never mind. We'll just go check if we can damage this motherfucker. Because that was the thing that we were actually checking before we got sidetracked into a sidetrack, into a sidetrack, into a sidetrack. That's the thing that actually matters, because then we actually are supposed to place down a bunch more doors, which I didn't do. Oh, man. I am such a mess today. Hey, but we've got these little... Oh, yeah, we also need to check out why the fuck it's instantiating two HUDs. For some reason, it's instantiating two HUDs on top of each other, which is kind of fucked. Yeah, so it doesn't damage you, like, at all yet. That's fine, because the way that we're going to deal with this is just taking our base enemy, or enemy base, rather. And we're just going to apply damage interface. Hey, would y'all look at all this? We're going to copy this over. You might think, hey, but why isn't it just like parented to each other? If you're going to do this, it's because we're going to delete a bunch of stuff. Because the... Where the fuck is he? There he is. Because the knight doesn't have like knockback and all that kind of stuff. Deal damage, spawn particles on hits. We just do nothing for those at the moment, I think. So we can just remove that, get character. Let's just put these side by side. If damage dealer is player character, then we spawn hit particles. Okay, so we don't need to do that check. I'm just going to put this on my other monitor. I'm sorry if you guys can't see that, but fucking cry me a river. So this immediately then hooks up to place sound location, which yeah, might as well. I think it's good to keep that one. And then we get the resistance table. That's also good. It's going to probably give me some compiler. Okay, there we go. Then actual damage is, I guess, a local variable, is it? It is. So let's just create a local variable actual damage. Then we... deal damage? Oh, it's BP base enemy. That's part of this. Okay, we deal damage. We just copy that over, sure. Because this is, to be fair, probably should be a blueprint function instead, but or like a library function. I mean, we can improve that later. That's fine. Let's see, do we have any other issues? Okay, so then we have the knockback. We don't need to do that. We don't reset defense on a timer for this one. So we don't need to get this stuff. I don't even know what we're doing with all that, but sure. Knockback doesn't matter. If defense is less than or equal to 0, we actually don't deal with that in here either. This is damage knockback animation, so we don't do any of that. And if current health is less than or equal to 0, we do a thing. I don't know what thing we do, but we do a thing. I think we call, like, we call something. We're listening out for it in here. Let's go into the into this and check what that event dispatcher is called, because I have no idea. It's not this one. Add health bar, restart logic. Oh, we just bind to on damage and check. Okay, so this is bad. I think I had a reason to do this because the normal like on death event dispatcher wasn't working. But we just, every time he receives damage, we just check in here if he's dying instead of doing that as part of the blueprint itself. Because why would you do something in a way that makes sense? But yeah, I guess that just means that we call on damage directly after this. So we don't need any of this shit. It's on damage, we can just call on ourselves. And that simplifies things quite a bit. So now, this very... Why don't you have... Oh, that's because that is technically on here, isn't it? Yeah, that should probably like get moved as well. Damage sound, I guess we... Can we just leave that empty for now? We can. Fantastic. Okay, now we should be able to damage him. I don't need logic. I don't need good code. Just need things to work. What? What the fuck happened there? Hold the fuck on. What the hell? Why? What? Is he? I think I know what's happening. Hold on. I think I have an idea what's happening. I think his behavior tree is just running. That's the wrong behavior tree. I think his behavior tree is just running right from the start. And he just leaves his place. Yep, that is 1000% what is happening. He's walking toward me as we speak. We might even see him in one of the other... no, we don't. I don't know why that broke. Because the only thing we change is how he receives damage. And this has nothing to do with any of that. So, but there he is. Well, he received damage now, so that's good. Like, all that works. We can even, like, electrocute him a little bit. Or, do, like, a fireball in his face. And we can even murder him. And then have this fantastic temp animation, which also is fucked because he's still doing an ability. Which again, yes, this is a temp animation. Just chill the fuck down. And now we're up here. With a broken leg, but again, it's a temp animation. Don't worry about it. So yeah, all that kind of works, but why do you not do? I guess I disconnected some stuff in here, maybe. Okay, so very first things first is like get the AI controller's brain components and stop logic on begin play. We can worry about restarting it later. I think I already have another stop logic in here somewhere as well, so we don't need that anymore. So we can just put that in there. Okay, so this is restart logic. Look at how bad this logic is set up, right? On player killed, we need to look into that as well at some point, I think. Enemy death. So cutscene has happened. If false, we wait until the end. So, and if true, we just immediately restart logic, I guess. Oh, but that's why we actually want to wait for the level to finish loading, I believe. Because that's going to be a little weird. Because he's going to be moving while we still have a loading screen. But he's at least still in his place now. So that's good. We can see him. And of all the things that we see with the cell shader on it, I actually quite like his armor. It actually looked quite nice. Okay, so restart logic. Well, that's good. And then you do your thing, right? So okay, he works again. That's good. Oh, I don't have my shift key bound for some reason to... Sure. Can he damage me? I don't think he can damage me, actually. Hold on. I don't think I have updated his damage. Please, no longer passive. I don't think he can damage me. Yeah, he can't damage me. Well, get fucked. So yeah, the issue there is that his animations don't have the proper stuff yet. Which is not too difficult to implement, to be fair. But there's a bunch of enemies that still need that. I think that is a working tutorial again, though. Temporary tutorial. So that's good. I still don't love how the line shader just got absolutely bananas on this floor. But this... I know you're getting tired of hearing it, but it's temporary anyway, so I'm not going to bother too much about it. Because it's just like a Mega Scans material. Yeah, I think the graphics look good. Now, let's go up to Epic settings. Oh, that doesn't actually fucking change anything. So yeah, the Epic settings doesn't actually like do that much, aside from getting rid of my menu, which is really annoying. The only like notable differences between high and medium, it's a little bit less stuff going on medium. And then when I set it to low, it like actually just straight up kind of looks like shit. Because everything just goes very dark. High has a little bit more bounce light though. And then we've got cinematic, which obviously like isn't intended to play on anyway. So I don't know if it's good that the cell shader kind of like makes everything look the same or not. But like this is the difference between cell shader high and like how it used to look like. And then on medium, well, it takes a moment for like the exposure to like properly adjust itself, but that's quite nice. It's not just a cell shader, by the way. There's also like this post-processing thing. There's also like do some like tone mapping stuff. So that's why you can like see the dark areas a little bit better, because we are like using the HDR render more optimally when compressing it down to like normal SDR image. Just lighting, right? Yeah. So one of the things is that is the tone mapping. So it's not necessarily that it adds a lot more contrast. It does do that as well, but it also just makes everything a lot lighter. So if I go into the like post-processing here, like a lot of what you're seeing is me changing like these film settings and then having somewhere down here in the color correction stuff. Color grading here in global. Like I said, a lot of stuff. And I think in the shadows I set some stuff as well, right? Like this is what just the shader looks like without tone mapping settings applied, like at all. Well, actually, it seems like there still is some tone mapping going on somewhere. But yeah, I'm also doing like a bunch of stuff with, oh, actually, I have a better way to show all that. Hold on. I think I have everything set up back now. I probably shouldn't have messed too much with this, to be honest. I think everything is back to what it used to be. Yes, it is. So to just show off the shader, I can just like turn this off. Like this is the only difference that the shader itself actually makes. So the shader itself is actually a pretty small difference. It's just like the line thing and the actual cell shading, which is more visible when I have like a character that's properly lit. But it's also quite visible on areas like this, right? So if I go here, like this is the difference that the shader makes. All the color stuff is the tone mapping. So let's see, do I have... Most of the stuff I have here is pretty like evenly lit, so you don't actually see the cell shading too much. Which is all right, but it's kind of annoying for what I'm trying to show. Edge line weight. Yeah, so in viewport mode, it kind of has like a very abrupt ending to it. In actual runtime, it's not that bad, luckily. I don't know why it behaves this way, but yeah, you can see a lot of the look actually comes in from the line shader more so than the cell shading itself. Maybe this shows it a little bit more. Not even that much. So yeah, the cell shading itself doesn't actually like do that much. You can see it on the character here. That's one of the things where you can like see quite well. And even then, not that much. So I don't know how much I care for the cell shading itself, but the lines are really quite nice in this updated version. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. I don't know if we're being particularly productive. Yeah, that's because we kind of finished up the tutorial area, and I don't think I'm going to be moving on to the purple dungeon at the moment, because that'll be a lot of work to get started. Here on the wall, you can probably like see the cell shading take effect quite nicely. Right? It's also not quite instant. It takes like a moment because of like how Lumen refreshes the screen. I enjoy the post processing you set up going towards like I fully just like took that from a YouTube video. To be fair, I saw this video a while ago on physically based cell shading. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Not going to bother with that right now. And this week I was like, oh, let's play around with that. And it took me an entire day to get everything right. But it's actually once you have everything down and understand everything how it works, it's not that bad. Like all this is the line shader, which requires like some custom like shader code here, because it needs to be done in a loop, because of the way like the kernel works. But then like the actual like cell shading it's just this. Like that's all that there is to it for the cell shading. It's not that much. So your decision to add a good choice. Yeah, I like it. I sent this like a couple of images of the cell shading to like my friends in like some like group chats, and I was like, hey, good way to mask the fact that you suck at making art. Just cell shade it. Looks great, right? And like it's a little overly like pessimistic, but it's also not entirely untrue. Like everything looks a lot better due to the shading and specifically the outlines. Like if we just play through it a little bit, like with new game. Oh, no, we're gonna do a thing. We have two HUDs, I think. Why is that? Or at least the HUD is getting added to viewport twice. That's the thing that we're gonna look into. Because that is actually like straight up an issue. But yeah, the nice thing about this cell shader is that it works with emissive materials, partly, and metallic materials, because it's not just like based on only like the diffuse color. So what the fuck is your problem with having two HUDs? I'm guessing this is just getting called twice. Where even is my event graph? Yeah, so here creates inventory widgets. It adds the HUD to the viewport at like -99. It probably does this twice, right? So let's call this category HUD. HUD added. Probably don't even need to like log that too much, but at this point I kind of just like doing that. Okay, it only adds it once. Oh, but now it actually works properly. So it is a load game thing. So on load game it adds it twice. Right? Yeah, on load game it's adding it twice. So what it's probably doing is in the game instance, on load game it's probably running that function as well, and it doesn't need to. Load save, yeah, create inventory widgets. I don't know, like, do we need to do that? I don't think we need to do that. But now it didn't run it at all, did it? Yeah, now it didn't run anything at all. Okay, so... What? But how does that make sense? Moreover, why doesn't this just always run on begin play? Well, actually, I guess... let's get rid of this. I guess it should always create these on begin play, and then just... Yeah, I think that's the best way to do this. So let's... just for testing purposes, let's say set visibility on this thing just to... let's just call it visible for now, for testing purposes. And I guess we can add this to viewport like once and then just immediately set it to invisible. It's not entirely ideal, obviously, but it's not something that's going to get replicated along a lot as well, so it's probably fine. So then we can just do all this shenanigans on begin play. Somewhere up here or something, I don't care. So even then, if this runs twice, it's not that big a deal, because it's only going to set it to visible twice, is my thinking. I don't know if this is a great workaround necessarily, but it is the workaround that we're going to go with. Because on new game, still works. No double stuff. And then on load game. Yeah, so that workaround does the trick. Hard for me, hard for the parasite in me. Hard for the demon that drives my life. Yeah, so I guess we just let's just run through real quick and see if we run into any other issues. Just like a little bit of a fun little test run. I'm not going to be using magic, just so that I give the enemies actual a chance to attack me back. What I also quite like actually about this cell shader is that it doesn't just create the bands in the luminosity. It also limits the actual colors that it renders slightly, so that you don't have as much of a gradient in the actual colors themselves either. That really helps. That's something that I probably would have never come up with myself, but like the video that I watched on this cell shading, that was like, hey, everybody's doing cell shading wrong. And I was like, I want to see that because I have a video on cell shading. You're calling me out as well. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, no, this dude's definitely right and knows what he's doing. Like, as much as I have some, material tutorials and even cell shading and line shading and a pixel shader and whatever for post-processing, I like messing around with that stuff, and I am decent enough as a programmer, but I'm not fucking Ace Rolla or whatever, right? I don't know too much about very in-depth graphics programming, and I don't really care to be honest with you. So yeah, it's kind of nice to see somebody having some good ideas and I can just take them. I initially was gonna just buy this asset from his Gumroad, but Gumroad was being a bitch and only taking credit card and not PayPal. And my bank's been a real bitch about dealing with my credit card over the last handful of months. So I couldn't buy it. I mean, I wanted to give him money, but Gumroad literally wouldn't let me. And he didn't have just a product for sale on his Patreon. So at that point, I guess, yeah, I just spent the day making it myself, which was an educational experience, without a doubt. I learned a lot. I actually know how it works and why it works and what it does now. But it's one of those things where I now understand how it works. That doesn't mean that I could have come up with any of it myself, right? But it also was definitely not a financially sensible decision to spend an entire day on something that I could have gotten for $50. But I just physically couldn't buy it. So, yeah. Time to update the cell shading video. You see, that was actually kind of going through my mind. But then I was like, I don't know. I sometimes do take what I learn from other people and put it into my own videos. Because in the end, I'm a firm believer that knowledge like that, you can't copyright that stuff, right? So what? When I learn something, I can never teach it to someone else. But in this case, I don't think I know and like, ooh, that's a weird bug. Know and understand enough about all this to like really properly teach it or anything. As well as the video that he has on it is already like really good. Like, the only difference that I would make is the first half of the video is going into a bunch of like wrong ways to do it, or ways that a lot of people do it which are suboptimal. Like cutting that out would make for a more concise video that would probably like be a slightly easier watch. So in that way, yes, I could maybe improve on it a little bit, but I don't think that like my additions would be worth enough to the point where I would feel good about doing that. The quest system that I've been working on, you guys haven't seen any of it yet, but the quest system that I've been working on was also heavily inspired by just looking up on YouTube and Google what other people have done making a quest system. I knew going in that I wanted it to be, we need to look at that HP thing. I knew going into the quest system that I wanted it to be object-based, and I found a lot of people doing it like with data tables and structs, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I want it to be object-based. So I looked for somebody else who did it as an object-based system, and I looked through like the hour of content that he made on it. I reproduced that, and then I improved it. Like I improved it, in my opinion, quite a bit. Because the system that I found didn't really like take into consideration working between different levels or serializing for saving or anything like that. So I'm adding all that to it myself, and at that point I feel good about like taking somebody else's like base ID and iterating on it, but just like taking information like straight up like that. That other video exists, so you might as well go watch that. If I'm not adding anything to it, there's like no reason for me to make that video, aside from just like kind of being a dick. You know how it works, time to apply it to different scenarios. That's the thing though, because it is graphics programming, I have a serious lack of an ability to do that. Like I don't know enough about like mid to high end graphics programming to be able to come up with things myself purely based on like the tools presented to me. With like normal programming, that's not a problem at all. With things to do with graphics and materials and that kind of stuff, I fucking lose it, man. It's also because that generally requires a lot more like advanced and in-depth math knowledge, and while I have like a pretty good like head for mathematics, I also like don't. Well, my brain works very mathematically. It's just I never like got into like beyond high school level math. So a lot of the stuff that like is required to know in order to do things like this properly just kind of doesn't exist in my brain. And there's only so much like time and effort that I'm willing to spend into learning stuff that I could be spending into learning other stuff, right? I think that's a very way to make it was. Yeah, that's, I mean, I don't want to be like rude or anything to a lot of my fellow like educational creators, but like quite a lot of them have some issue or another that I think personally, why am I even saving? Personally, I do better at, whether it be like audio quality, because a lot of them just straight up don't have a good microphone, which makes it really difficult to sometimes follow along what somebody is saying because you're concentrating on listening to the audio, which takes away concentration from understanding what's going on. Whether it is just like a general inexperience with like presenting yourself. which makes sense because like a lot of things that you're going to be like watching tutorials from people who know what the fuck they're talking about, to a certain extent, like a lot of people who know better what they're talking about than me, to be fair with you, are programmers. And programmers are famously not people persons. So the fact that a lot of them maybe aren't necessarily like the best in the world at like presenting themselves is makes some sense, right? So like, and I have a like background in film and video production, so like I know a thing or two about like communicating information. So I have some things going for me in that regard. So even just like taking something, adding some stuff onto it, and making it more watchable is honestly, to me, enough of a value add in some cases. But I also like make a point out of not making content out of something that I don't like actually fully understand. Because obviously I want to be able to help people who run into trouble whenever I just copy people's stuff. I don't know what the hell is going on either. But yeah. And again, it's not like it's other people's fault that their like audio quality isn't amazing or any of that stuff, right? Like, can't really judge people for that. It's just like something that I personally, again, as somebody with a video background, like professionally, I have a difficult time with that. Like, I can't stand bad audio quality. But yeah, in general, I also like just think that like information should be as freely and as like. Is it applying anything to my UI? Shouldn't be, right? No, it's just JPEG compression actually, I think. Anyway, but as I say, I firmly believe that like knowledge should be as much as possible like not gated behind like anything. Which is why I very rarely make any like Patreon exclusive tutorial videos. I did that like that one time for the inventory course, and then I ended up making that one public anyway because it ended up not being just an alternative solution. It ended up being a fix to some problems that I didn't realize, right? When I make something like Patreon exclusive, those are like the actual materials, the actual assets, the actual like code that is written. But like everything you need to know to reproduce it and to learn from it, I try to like just provide for free because like, I don't own that information, and neither does the person that I learned it from, if I learned it from anybody. So like I own the video. Like, don't go redistributing the video. Like, I made that. But I don't own the information inside that video. Even if I came up with it entirely myself, I honestly feel like I don't know, or I don't own the like general information of it. I own the code if I wrote it myself. Like the inventory system I wrote my entire self. I like own that code. Like legally speaking, I have a copyright over that code. Just by the fact of like making it. But the knowledge that drives me to like understanding everything well enough to like come up with that kind of stuff, like I don't own that. Nobody owns that. Anyway, I'm rambling again. Tutorials can always reference old source material. That's the whole point of making more relevant tutorials, as long as it isn't a copy paste from someone else. Yeah, so that's also like when I take a look at other people's stuff, I always iterate on it, right? Like again, let's just have a little bit of fun with this. What the fuck? Gonna ignore that. Let's just have a little bit of fun with this and show the quest projects. because it was actually quite nice, and I'm quite happy with how it came out. This is going to take a moment. Hold on. So how's everybody doing? We're also going to end up. Oh, let's see. That shouldn't be affected in any way, I don't think. Yeah, so I have this quest system here, right? And I'm working on making this into a course. I have like 4 videos recorded. So that's about halfway there. But I can like pick up this quest here, and this quest says explore the area, and it has like a bunch of sub-objectives. And these sub-objectives can either be ordered or unordered or whatever. So I can say, hey, you want to walk over the ramp, go to the ramp start. That is over here. When I do that, it unlocks the second one because this sub-objective with its objectives is set to being ordered. So then I can walk in a circle. That's just a singular sub-objective. And then walk up onto this block that has a sub-objective of first walk up to the stairs. So I can't just like go up to the top here, because I first need to complete these sub-objectives, which I actually can do in either direction that I want. Once that is completed, the reach the top of the block unlocks, and that lets me actually finish off the quest. Quite a bit of this I took from another person, but also I then tweaked it a lot. So if we go into the like base quest, or the first and foremost, I linked it to a quest component because obviously, and then the entire like tree view that you see here, like I made that. Like everything you see here, this tree view system, that's entirely from my brain. But the like object-based like not hierarchy, well, there's a hierarchy, architecture, that's what I was looking for, is entirely like based on somebody else's work, but I changed some things around. So you can see that like my quests have a quest ID and a quest name. And that allows it to like easily serialize into like a save object, which means that you can save them directly like to a save game, or you can save them to a save object that remains in memory, so that when you go into a different level, and this is the neat stuff, you can see this thing over here. If I walk into this level over here, I can pick up the same quest over here, saying explore, but I'm not on the right level. So if I walk forward, I go into the right level. And now I have that quest already picked up because they share the same name. So when I go between levels, it saves, hey, you have a quest with this name as an active quest. So it loads in that quest when I start this level, which also means that that can just apply to a save file very easily as well. I can now even like do part of this quest, right, in this level. And then go into the other level. It still says explore, go to the right level, because they share the same name. But because every objective has its own objective ID as well, those also get saved out. So it remembers which objectives I did when I exit and re-enter the level. All this stuff that I'm explaining now didn't exist in the original like version that I took inspiration from. I built quite a lot of stuff on top of this, which, in my opinion, a lot of this stuff like needs to exist in order for this to be like anyway useful, right? So that's why I don't feel so bad for like looking at somebody else's stuff and then like making a course off of it, because like all this stuff like I came up with and I like improved. And then as well, instead of like making 3 half-an-hour videos, I'm making like 10 videos between 10 and 30 minutes to make it like more directed and more intentionally like digestible and that kind of stuff. Because again, my profession at the end of the day has everything to do with sharing information and or emotion. That is what like filmmaking is. And that is what I professionally do. So I have like a bit more of a a feel, I think, for how to make things slightly more digestible. But yeah, there's a little preview of what the next 2 months is going to be for the dialogue system is now finished. Which means that this weekend I'm going to be completing the recording and doing a bunch of editing to get all this stuff finished so that it can go up on Patreon. Because I like having the full course finished before the first episode starts going up in case I run into any issues. You can see I also make the entire thing before I start recording the episode by episode version now. I didn't do that with the inventory series, and that ended up being not great. So I like having everything finished before it actually starts going up on YouTube, and that gives a month or two of, if you want everything now, you can support me on Patreon. Thank you very much. But yeah, this isn't up on that yet because I'm still in the middle of producing the entire course. But hopefully this weekend I can make a lot of progress with that. And then I think starting the end of next week, next Saturday, off the top of my head, the first episode will start going up on YouTube for this as well. And that'll last through the middle of January, I think. But yeah, this is, I think this is also not to start going full sales pitch on you, because you're 2.5 hours, you guys are 2.5 hours into me rambling on a live stream. I don't think this is the crowd that really matters when I just go off the rails. I think that this is also a pretty good intermediate programming exercise to follow along with, even if you don't want a quest system. In the same way that I think my inventory course, with the issues that it has aside, because the drag drop system that I built for that was just straight up a mistake. But I think my inventory system is a pretty good achievement milestone for when you have a pretty decent grasp on object-oriented programming and Blueprint in general in Unreal Engine, to really use a lot of stuff and use a lot of skills together to make something, right? I think the inventory system does that fairly well. It's fairly low entry, but by the end of it, hopefully, if you already had a basic understanding, you now are familiar with object-oriented programming and how that actually functions and have a feel for it. The only slightly more up there thing for the inventory course is the metadata objects, because you're now instantiating generic U objects, and you need to worry a little bit more about their lifetime and that kind of stuff. Because the way that U objects get garbage collected is kind of weird, so you need to be aware of that. This course effectively entirely lives on basic U objects because the objectives are just U objects that you instantiate for every objective of your quest. And the most wonderful thing is, and this is just one video, but the tree view is an entirely recursive system. So if we go into the objective viewer, this is the custom tree viewer that I made, it's entirely empty, it's just a vertical box. And what it does is it gets given in an objective. It checks whether that is an objective collection, meaning that does this have sub-objectives, or is this just a singular objective? If this is a singular objective, it does some stuff, and it simply just sets a quest text and sends through the objective reference there for some other stuff. But if this ends up being a objective collection, what it does is it loops over all of these sub-objectives and creates another instance of objective view within this objective view, which then all can go do the same thing. So it checks everything, and everything that itself has other sub-objectives spawns in other objective views. So this is a recursive system, which is I don't want to say like super advanced level, like mega brain stuff, because it's not. But like once you like step into this kind of stuff, I feel like you're stepping into like I'm no longer just the beginner that is looking up tutorials, which is also kind of like after you've done this, hopefully like you understand enough that a lot of my other content probably doesn't actually very much apply to you anymore, because at that point, like if you understand how this works, you should be able to fairly easily like understand and come up with a lot of the other stuff that I make, which is part of the problem with making tutorials. Is you're building an audience that you're preparing to not need you anymore. Ideally. From like a teaching perspective. From a content creation perspective, of course, you do want people to be like almost dependent on you, but I would much prefer people actually learn than be dependent on me. But yeah, like this gets a little like iffy and complicated. And if it goes wrong, it goes real wrong, because again, it is recursive. I was supposed to be understanding. I don't know. You can just copy my stuff as well, right? I mean, if you want, you can copy my stuff and just keep giving me views. I don't mind that. I mean, that's how I get paid. I like making rent. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of like cool stuff with this, and don't worry, this whole like mess is just like my personal project. In the course, this is a lot more digestible. But I'm quite happy with how this quest system came out. Downside is now that the quest system is done, and after I've recorded everything, I need to come up with the next like long-term series, because I like having these courses that take like a month or 2 months to come out, like 6 to 10 parts. I really do like having those. But it's also like, at some point, I don't know. What am I going to do after this? Because it's definitely not going to be networking, because I don't even know where to start with any of that myself, let alone understand and like know everything well enough to like make a course and support other people. So it's definitely not going to be networking. I already made an inventory. I made a quest system now. Those are some like fairly like cornerstone pieces of I guess actually a really good question. What am I going to do next? I've thought about making a custom build gameplay ability system. Not for use of my own, because I very much like the gameplay ability system. Time to look at the indie game trend and design a game feature. Oh, that's actually not a bad idea. It's just like straight up making a tutorial series about how to make Slay the Spire. Right? Because everybody is making Slay the Spire. Another thing that I've thought of is making something, making more like that, right? Like making specific genres in courses. Like making a roguelike. And making a deck builder. That kind of stuff. That's actually like a thing that I've considered doing. And I think that might also like work fairly well. I kind of run into an issue there though. And at this point we're just like kind of like spitballing on the stream. We're not actually doing any work anymore, but who cares? An issue that I run into there though is if you make like a full genre course, at some point you're gonna run into the issue where I have to refer you to like my inventory course, because if we're going to make an RPG, I'm not going to make a course to make an RPG and make the inventory system from scratch in that course, because I've already covered all that stuff. And the inventory series is like the inventory system that I have is built to be expandable and apply to effectively everything. So do I really just like make an RPG course and say, hey, in order for you to progress from this point after 2 videos, go watch an entire like 8-hour different course before we move on, because that also seems a little scummy, right? I don't know. That seems. I don't know. Does that seem scummy? To me, that kind of seems scummy. But on the other hand, you can also interpret that as, oh my god, this guy has so much like content available for me to learn from. Or does that seem like, hey, he's kind of tricking me into watching more of his stuff? Because personally, I feel a little bit more toward the latter. And I don't want that to be the case. But I also like, should that stop me from making something? Right? Should that stop me from making a course on a specific topic? Just because it's either too big or I have to refer to other like content that I've already made. These are the kind of things that I think about on a maybe not a daily basis, because I've got like much shit going on in my life to be thinking about this all the time. But quite regularly, is the kind of thing that goes on in my head. It's thinking about, okay, so what is like okay to do and what is not okay to do, like from a tutorialization perspective. And I don't know, I feel like at some point I'm gonna get to the point where the only way for me to like make these more long-term like series course type content is going to be having to rely on previous content that I've made. Because I also make some videos that assume that you've at least like learned the basics of Unreal Engine, right? I don't assume that every video that I make that you're entirely new to Unreal Engine. And I have two playlists actually, a bad one and a slightly less bad one, for a basics introduction to Unreal Engine. I made that C++ course before making the gameplay ability system course, so that anybody wanting to get into the gameplay ability system could watch my C++ stuff, because that is just sadly required. Missed a question because I was typing, making more videos as thumbs up. I mean, I guess that's the long and short of it, isn't it? Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to. I've seen tutorial playlists that build on previous tutorials, but they were regards for genre builds. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking about. It's like I have a bunch of separate tutorials that, without like having any connecting tissues, you could use to build an RPG at this point. And I've been thinking about maybe sometime next year. Maybe what I want to do is I want to make a course or a series. I like calling them courses because it sounds more professional, but like, I want to make a playlist, a specific like dedicated playlist to making some sort of Pokemon clone. So that includes making abilities, that includes having an inventory, that includes potentially this quest system, maybe. That includes making turn-based combat, all that kind of stuff. But I kind of feel like I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to yoink my my inventory system, and if you don't have that, it's free here on YouTube to watch how to make it. Good luck. Because that, if I decide that that is like fine for me to do, that does unlock a bunch of possibilities for like interesting things to make. And I don't know if it's necessarily like going to be interesting for a lot of people. Because like the more specific you get, the more niche your like potential audience is, obviously. Like specifically making a Pokemon knockoff is only going to apply to people who specifically want to make only a Pokemon knockoff. And once you get to a certain like level of specificity, you kind of have to assume a certain like maximum skill level as well. Because people who are looking for something very specific but are also looking up a tutorial are usually like fairly beginner level in things from the experience that I have, which is not a bad thing. Like everybody's here to learn. But I enjoy making these like slightly more complicated things because that's like more fun for me to make, honestly. But the more like intermediate level you get, the less your actual audience needs you, because generally speaking, like a lot of people will just come up with stuff themselves. Not everyone, not always. Like as I say, I also just like Google and YouTube things when I want to look at things, but and maybe I'm like overthinking it, right? Because the way I've started using tutorials, like after the first year of learning, is not so much as a guide for the most part, but more as inspiration at this point, I think. When it comes to like purely coding. When it comes to graphic stuff, as I said earlier, oh man. Anyway. Yeah, and that's also true. Like every project is different, so in the end, like you as the person putting the things together need to like understand well enough what's going on to like plug it into your own project. Anyway, so yeah, that's the Quest series that's coming up. Yeah, just letting people know, like, okay, this is the inventory system. If you don't care about it, you can just ignore it, but it's going to like be an issue with XYZ at some point. But you can like fill in the blanks there yourself. I guess that's a thing that you can do. Purely from just a content creator perspective, it is fantastic to be able to make content to tell people to go watch other videos on your channel. Like that is actively what the YouTube algorithm wants you to do. Which is maybe part of why I feel like it's like kind of a scummy thing to do. I don't know. At the end of the day, people can just choose whether or not they want to watch something. So maybe I shouldn't think so much about it. Yeah, so we finished up doing all this stuff. And we have a functional tutorial again. I guess tomorrow I'm going to be streaming again. Usually I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but yesterday I didn't stream because I didn't have a working project file. Please don't crash. Unreal. The fuck are you doing? Okay, I guess we're going to be just looking at this screen for a while. Never mind. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with... it kind of depends on what I feel like doing, to be 1000% honest with you. We might go through this area and start replacing all the doors back in here. Or we might do something a little bit more fun and do some like magic abilities. Because I have like my attribute reworked now, so I have an attribute for piercing damage. So I can make some spells that like give you temporary increased piercing damage, give you temporary increased general damage, temporary increased defense, maybe. The defense, that doesn't seem that relevant, to be honest with you. I might even have like a potion that temporarily like improves your max HP, maybe? I don't know. We'll have to think about that. I have this idea for like a chaining lightning spell as well, that like when you hit something with it, it checks in a radius around it for anything that hasn't been hit by it yet, and then hits that thing, and then when that hits, it does the same thing. So when there's like a bunch of enemies close-ish to each other, you have the potentiality to like effectively hit the entire room with that one spell. I think that could be really fun and satisfying to do. And that's a bit more complicated than just applying an effect and calling it a day. So that might be fun to do. So yeah, I have some ideas for some more magic spells. And we also still have a summon to fix. We still have an AI to fix. And then we slowly are going to get started on re-implementing some tutorialization to get this playtest ready. So yeah, we'll see what we do tomorrow. I feel like we're gonna do the magic spells because I like doing those, but I don't know. Maybe we'll do some more doors. Kind of depends on how my brain is feeling. I've got like a day of work tomorrow as well, so if that work really like fries my brain, I might not be doing too much like active programming and just passively placing down doors and hanging out and talking about like weird shit might be the way we go. If my brain is braining properly, I think doing the magic spells is most fun. And as always, like if you have ideas for like magic spells to introduce in the game, specifically magic spells, I don't think I'm going to have a limit on how much creativity and like different ideas, as long as they're not like super out there, I want to implement. Like every idea that I can get my like grimy little hands on for magic spells, I'm probably going to end up making one way or another, because that's what today's devlog is about. Anybody who hasn't seen today's devlog yet, if you're still here after almost 3 hours of me just rambling you to death, like 5 of you, if you haven't seen today's devlog yet, go watch it after this. But that's like about the fact that I need variety in my combat, and just adding in an absurd amount of magic is the way that I'm going to do that. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Usually I stream on Tuesdays, but like again, version control fucked up, so I just literally didn't have a project that was working to stream with yesterday, and I was super mad. So that wouldn't have been entertaining anyway. I'm gonna end the broadcast here. It's good. It's been a good one. Save everything, please, and I'm going to. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna submit content. I'm gonna do a push. Well, I'm not gonna do a push actually to like GitHub, but tutorial level doors. Gonna submit, and then when we open up fork, we will see right over there. It works. See you.